Okay, so this is just a simple thing on our new little toy that we're playing with, and this is Wonderware, and this is how you can do a HMI SCADA. Now what we have here is, and we'll go to this monitor which shows the system. This is just a tank that we fill up, it goes through a filter. It's normal configuration. It comes in, goes through the pump when the pump is on. It's not on right now. Goes up here, in through the top, out through the bottom, and fills up our tank. Then there's also a backwash. When this gets filled, it drains from the tank, and now all the even numbers, valves, and these are electronic solenoid valves. This turn on, and it'll go up through here. It'll come through this pipe, this solenoid valve 4. It'll run through the bottom of the tank and come out here. This output is kind of like a drain for the excess. Now when it gets down to about 20, it'll start filling again, and then you'll see the pressure from the tank turning on, and the pressure comes up. Now when this gets up to about differential pressure of 5, for around 5 seconds, it'll start the backwash. And if we look at the main screen again, now we can see this tells us what the level is, and this indication is kind of it grows as it gets larger and larger. So we're about to go into backwash, and you'll get the backwash light pending, and it's going to wait until it goes through the fill cycle. Now down here we also, so it's pending, and when it gets all the way full, it'll go into the backwash and it'll start triggering. And now we're in backwash. So we also have the configuration for the solenoids, and if we look at that, now all our even number solenoids are turned on. So if we look at our monitor panel, it's coming in through the pump, it's coming in through this S4 solenoid valve, out through the bottom of the tank, and then it's being pumped out here, and it's cleaning out all the, it's like resistance or dirt that you would have in the filter tank. And so it's in its backwash mode. Some of the other things is when it, and you can see it's draining, and when it gets down to about 20%, it'll switch over. So right now all the even ones are done, and when it's done with the backwash mode, you'll see the motor flip off, and all these switches will flip state. So then it'll be in the normal operation, and all the valves will be turned on. Now what we also have is we have a system operational timer. This is the run screen, and we also have a backwash cycle counters, and we also have some security. Right now it's got guest level is signed in, which means they have no system access. So if we go to the main screen, we can't start or stop. All the controls are disabled because the guest is logged in. And same with the configuration. We have these set points. Well, that one's not set, but we have these things, and they can't flip any of these because they don't have the privileges. And we have an alarm screen. Right now it just shows low level. This is a soft alarm. So as soon as that alarm goes away, it shows its state. And then some of these we have screens. When they're blue, that means the fault occurred and then it went away, so we can just acknowledge and clear these faults. And if it was a critical alarm, these are over here. So if we have a over temperature, if we have a pump on and we lose flow, we don't want that condition to burn up our pump, so that's going to shut it down. And then if our tank overflows its limits, that'll shut it down too. So here we have the high level alarm, and that'll go away in a second. Here, if I acknowledge it, because the alarm still exists, it goes green, but then as soon as the alarm goes away, it disappears. And finally, there is this final, this is a trend screen that you can look at some of the parameters in real time. This is not very worthwhile, but we can do that. Now if I go into security, we can't do any switching, but I'll put in my password, which is Will, and then we'll key in my password, and now I've got access to all the panels. So now if I go here and I want to stop the system for whatever reason, I'll just stop it. System is off and it turns off. I can start it again, and I can go into our configuration and I can change some of the set points if I wanted to. I could put backwash on lockout, which is not a very good idea to do it for any length of time, but that'll show up as a red error, because if you leave that on, the pressure is going to build in the filter tank too much, and then you'll get an overpressure condition, and that will shut the system down. And if we look at the alarms, we also see that there. But we don't want to do that, so we'll put it back in the enable condition, and then we're good to go. Now, the whole thing is, normally what we do is we just write a simple program that fills the tank and drains the tank. But adding these configurations, some of this monitor function on this Wonderware is great. But some of these, runtime is what all systems should have. And I think if we showed, we have to incorporate this into the PLC classes. But it's going to have to be at the high level, and I'm not quite sure how we do this. But I think if you take this and show this and say, this is what I can do, that would be really impressive to potential employers. And the thing about it is, for all the programs that they've done, is you can get an educational license for this stuff for 6 months for free. And so, yeah, there's a lot of reasons that we need to incorporate it. And this stuff also, the way it's set up right now is, well, first, and I should explain that, when we go and hit exit, we exit the runtime program, and what we do is we go into the HMI Wonderware system, and we can access some things. Now, what we're doing here is we're looking at these operational hours, but we also count the backwash cycles. And we have a thing where we do data logging, which is kind of what you'd want to do when you're doing the SCADA, because it is data acquisition. So what we have is, we also have it set up so that this is acting as a send its data to a SQL server. And what we have is we log data when we're doing the backwash function, and then we also take a strobe data at 10-minute intervals. And I've had the program running, well, I think we are I don't know if we're about ready to go into a backwash, but we can look at this, and we've had it running for a few minutes, so we should see some data. And if we look in here, this will get us this will get us into the SQL server program. And if we connect up, what we have in here for our database is we have this thing called PLC3, and that's our PLC. And if we go into our data tables, we have this backwash table and a periodic table. So if you look at this, I just deleted it, so there should not be much data in here. But if we look at this, for the data that we have in here, we see that we've gotten 2 backwashes. So we've logged data for not long, but 2 backwashes, and we can see the time that those backwashes occurred. And then if we look at this periodic data, and I'm not sure, we might have just a couple hits on this one too, but let's take a look at this. So we get timestamps, and what we've got here, if we look at this timestamp, we've got one at, and I don't know what the deal with the clock is, but it's not actually this time, but we got one timestamp at 12:40, and then we have one exactly 10 minutes later. So this kind of functionality might be kind of hard to implement, and I'm not sure where or how we do it, but this is great stuff, and we got to figure out how to use it. And so since I have my level access, and I can turn stuff off and turn things back on, some of these are for all the solenoid valves. And the hand position is basically a manual test position to make sure things are working. Off is pretty obvious. Auto is what we're doing right now and letting the system run by itself. And the way this works is, we still have a program, a PLC program that goes through all the details, and this is not what they would normally write. The Wonderware stuff is just on top of that. And you know, to make it work, you have to also put in some simulation functions, you know, to make the tank fill, to empty it out. You know, we have the hour meter function, which you know, we don't do too much with that, but that would be a good thing, and that allows the runtime to present itself. And so you know, this stuff really shows off their capabilities. You know, right here, this is some of the simulation, and while it's running, you know, we just add, because it is simulation, we just add arbitrary values to it. You know, what we have down here is just for tank levels, and you know, filling and emptying based on various conditions. So I don't know when and how, but we've got to incorporate this stuff. It's, you know, this Wonderware stuff, I've just been turned on to it in the last month, and you know, I'm putting all my programs that I can on, just put them on this Wonderware and see what they look like. Anyway, but in this hand mode, you know, anything that's turned on, if I want, I can just turn it off. Now when I turn that off, this one also turns off because you basically turned off the system. But you can test all the pumps, so I can put it in hand mode, it'll turn it on any which way if I just want to test the system. Now if I want the system to run again, and so our system is off, but if I want it to again run, I can put them all in auto mode, and then they're in auto configuration. Now it's not started up until I go back here and put it on my on the start screen, and now I just started up and we're back to where we started. And this stuff is really cool. But that's my little video on Wonderware, and it's wonderful stuff.